Hey, welcome again into the television version of Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. I'm delighted that you've tuned in, joined with me today here on Strategies. How is your cognitive fitness? Great question for all of us. And to help us with that is the Executive Director of Learning RX, Shreveport, Bossier City, Denisa Walker. Denisa, welcome as a life strategist here on Strategies for Living.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy it.
We'll talk about this a lot, but Learning RX, we are so lucky that you decided after a career in education. How long were you a teacher?
21 years.
21 years. You decided you weren't through yet. And that, the fact that Denisa wasn't through after retiring from teaching, she decided, okay, well, I've got more educating to do. And she brought a fantastic center to the Shreveport, Bossier City area called Learning RX. It's a brain training center.
That's what we do.
And I'll tell you how special this is. If you go south, well, you're not going to find a Learning RX. If you go to the west, Dallas-Fort Worth area. Correct. Is the closest. If you go to the east, Atlanta maybe?
Atlanta.
If you go up north, maybe Nashville, Tennessee?
That's the closest full center. We actually have a new center that's one of our parents, actually, who had a passion for it, has opened a little sub-center in Texarkana. So,
oh, wow.
Yay!
Fantastic.
It's a brand new thing. So for her, that's great.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So you had the vision to bring Learning RX to the community.
I did.
And that is so important. Now, it's important for people to understand what Learning RX is and
Correct.
what Learning RX is not, because some people in the past have thought you were something other than a brain training center. But describe to us what that is and how that's different from, let's say, tutoring.
Yeah. So tutoring is a reteaching of content. So basically you missed school or you had a hard time picking up content from the teacher. Maybe your teacher was out on sabbatical or something and you had substitute. I mean, you just needed a reteaching of the content.
Right.
But if you need reteaching of content year after year in the same area, say in math, and you struggle year after year after year in math, something else is going on.
You got to ask the question, what's going on
There's something else going on. It cannot be that you have poor teaching every single year.
Right.
There's something else going on with your cognitive function. And so cognitive fitness and looking at brain training basically is looking at how fit are you? I mean, obviously, you wear glasses. I've had eye surgery.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we've had our eyes checked.
Right.
And this is something that parents understand that we as adults, we understand. We
understand
we have to get our eyes checked. Most of us even go to the dentist. We get our teeth checked on a regular basis. We understand that these are part of healthcare.
Right.
We do our yearly visits to our doctor. But what we don't do is we don't get this checked.
Why do we ignore the obvious? Why do we ignore our brain?
Right. We ignore the fact that the brain actually has a measure. There actually is a measure of function where you can measure how strong are your long-term memory skills? How strong is your processing speed? How many windows of your brain can you keep open at the same time without losing the information?
Right.
And there's actually measurement for that.
Absolutely.
And that is what we do at the center. We do cognitive fitness assessments. And then when we do find weaknesses, we actually do the intensive therapy training that it requires to get that back up to efficiency.
And that's the great news for all of us. It hasn't been so many years ago where I've been in practice for 28 years. And when I went through graduate school, pretty much the things that we were taught is, people have to manage
what they got.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the brain that they have is the brain that they have. They've got to learn to play those cards. Now, with the advent of research, especially over the last 10, 15 years, we know that there is, in fact, neuroplasticity.
And neuroplasticity is amazing in so many areas. It's amazing that no matter how old you are, that you can get assistance and you can make changes and you can make decisions. So you don't have to say, well, I never learned to read as a child and so therefore I'm never going to be a reader.
Right.
Because you can.
You can,
And that's the whole thing, is that your brain can be retrained. That's even when we look at strokes and traumatic brain injury and these types of things, which we have so much of from
Right.
different lifestyles, from concussions
Right.
to, military here,
Right.
as we talk about that. All of these things can impact our function, our cognitive function, and those are all retrainable areas.
Absolutely.
So-
The month of October, we're wrapping it up, but the month of October is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right.
And so many things that we consider mental health, focus on the way our brain works.
That's right.
Many of the anxiety disorders, depression, is actually perhaps our brain kind of stuck, if you will, going in a particular cycle. So
Particular pathway.
a particular pathway. And so when we begin to look at this, I mean, we don't think anything about our physical fitness.
Right.
I mean, we'll go join the 24-hour gyms, or we'll go, sign up for this or sign up for that. And all of that is well and good. That's great.
And important for the brain.
And important for the body and the mind and the brain. However,
you need to know your function. Right.
we need to know where we are. So
Yeah.
now you gave me some exciting news right before we went on the air, and you talked about a grant that LearningRx has been awarded from the Gibson Institute of Cognitive Research out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so anyone watching right now can take advantage of this.
Right. In the past, everyone was thinking that you had to go to a psychologist or you had to go somewhere to get this big, robust testing. You had to drive off to Dallas, or, you had to do all
Right.
this. It's very simple now. So you can, in the privacy of your home, you can take a cognitive fitness assessment digitally. It's digital delivered.
So you don't have to leave home to
You
do
don't
it.
have to leave home. You just need to, sit in front of your computer and take the test, and you can get the results instantly, where you know exactly what's going on, the way that your brain functions.
Now, of course, people watching us are saying, "Oh, yeah, but I bet that is so expensive."
Well, it can be. I mean, it can be. The cost of the test, if you purchase it, just you were going to Gibson Cognitive Skills Test right now, and you were to look it up, it's $97.
Right.
But through this grant that has been allotted to us, it is only $2.
$2. So how do I do this? How do I sign up for this?
Well, because the test is normed, we do have to have your name and your birth date and some pertinent information from you. So you would need to call our office.
You have to call the office to
You
sign
would
up
call
for
the
it.
office at 797-8523, and you would tell them that you're interested in the test. You would pay by your credit card, or $2, obviously, unless you want to come in and pay the $2. You would just pay over the phone, and then we would set your assessment up and email that password, log in, everything to you, and then you would be good to go.
In the privacy of your own home takes
That's
you
correct.
about 35 to 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
Do it when you're not going to be interrupted.
Right.
Do it when you're going to be at your best, because you want the best function
And
measure.
then when you get the results back, people can come in and they can go over if they
Absolutely.
want
So
to.
that's another part of the grant. It's
Right.
normally $125 to come in and to go over those results with me. But if you want to take advantage of that, you can schedule when you call. And so you're really getting over a $200 value for $2.
For $2. Wow. And that's all covered by this Gibson Institute of Cognitive
Research.
Research grant. Wow. What a super deal.
Yeah.
So it's LearningRx of Shreveport Bossier. 797-8523 is the number to call. Now, we should stress that this is for all ages, right?
It is for all ages. It begins at age 4.
Right.
They need to be computer literate if they're going to use the thing on the computer.
Well, what 4-year-old is not? computer
Exactly. Well,
literate
you would
these
think,
days? Yeah.
they need to be able to use their mouse cohesively and that
Right.
sort of thing. But for all the way up through adults, I think that the oldest norming cycle is maybe 106 now.
Right. Oh, wow.
So I
Okay.
think that there's people that take the test of all ages.
Wow. Now, what are you going to be able, let's say that we're looking at the test, we're looking at the instrument, and I'm showing some deficits, let's say. I'm not processing as fast as perhaps I was before.
Yeah. And that's normal as we age, that our processor does slow down, and some of us are born with slower processors than others, but you can actually do something about that. So there is activities that you can do. So when you come in for your private consult, I can recommend things that you can do privately if you would want to do it that way, or how you could come and work with one of our personal brain trainers and experience that growth in that skill set.
Yeah. Now, and again, I think that's one of the things that I want to stress today in terms of the young and the old. Certainly, when we're in the learning mode from school, when we're school age, from anywhere from preschool, elementary school, on to graduate school or medical school, certainly, Learning RX makes very good sense, but it doesn't stop there.
It does not stop there, and it's really important as you age that you take care of this mental faculty. We see more and more cases of dementia and age onset. As we kind of contracting back from so much social interaction is really important for the brain. Right. And as people contract back from that because of technology being so convenient, then a lot of times we're actually contracting some of our skills, and we don't necessarily realize that.
Right.
So it's a good way to measure that. I mean, I have a lot of folks who'll say, well, I don't know how I compare to somebody else. Well, this test tells you how you compare to somebody else. And so that's what's really important, is that way, how do I compare to other 50-year-olds?
Right.
Without looking at a measurement tool, I have no idea.
You have to know you have to know 2 points at least. You have to know where you're starting, and you have to have some idea of where I want to get to.
Absolutely.
I remember the very first time as a kid going to an amusement park like Six Flags and seeing the map. You are here, and we want to be here, and so you got to know those 2 points.
You got to know your path. You got to know what path you
want.
want.
And the beauty is this thing called neuroplasticity. We'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really comes into play with Learning RX of Shreveport Bossier. Denisa Walker is our life strategist today here on Strategies for a Living. We're learning about what they can do to help us and help us help our brain, because you change your brain, you change your life. More from Denisa Walker here on Strategies for a Living in just a moment. Stay with us.
I am protecting life on our planet.
Day by day, with every single thing I do.
I conserve the world's biggest forests.
I safeguard the rivers
and oceans.
I stand up for coral reefs,
rainforests,
tundras,
deserts,
and grasslands.
I work with communities in the Amazon,
the Arctic,
the Congo,
and the Himalayas.
I collaborate with the biggest companies on Earth
to make their processes and their products more sustainable.
I influence governments
to create policy that recognizes and respects
the importance of nature.
I give a voice to all animals who call Earth their home.
I'm protecting life on our planet.
But because I'm with WWF,
I am not doing it alone.
6,000 staff.
6 million members.
In over 100 countries.
For more than half a century.
Businesses.
Foundations.
Governments.
communities,
individuals,
and one iconic panda.
Together, we are protecting life on our planet,
including our own.
Because together,
Anything is possible.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back into the television version of Strategies for Living. You're obviously watching us here on Strategies for Living, but don't forget about the radio version of Strategies. That's where it all started some 25 plus years ago, and we're still right there on the radio. News Radio 710 Keel, 101.7 FM, and the Keel app. Those are all ways that you can hear the radio version of Strategies for Living. And that's every evening, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Keel, and also on Facebook Live. You can watch what goes on every evening, and you can also go Facebook/Strategies for Living and probably see a lot of programs with our life strategists today here on the television version of Strategies for Living. And thank you for tuning in to the radio and television version. We're also on Sunday mornings between 9 and 10 on Keel. So 6 days a week on the radio, and today here with you. And we're glad you're with us and talking about a very, very important subject today, our cognitive fitness. You know, you were saying, Denisa, we've got to make this a lifestyle. We make our physical fitness. We make a decision. We make a choice, and we make that a part of our regimen. We make that a part of our day to keep us healthy. And I think you're on a mission to convince all of us that if your physical fitness is important, your cognitive fitness is even more important.
Well, you know, one of the new statistics, and this was really shocking for me, but did you know that Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, has more than double the number of students diagnosed with ADHD and on ADHD medicines than the national average?
I was aware of that ADHD statistic. And again, attention is one of the main things that brain training can really target and really help with. And also, the month of October, in addition to being Mental Health Awareness Month, is ADHD Awareness Month.
Right.
It's Dyslexia Awareness Month. And again, brain training can address all of that, can it not?
Brain training works on the underlying cognitive skills that these result in. So these are simply labels that are put on for weak cognitive skills.
Right.
So if you address the cognitive skills, there you go.
There you go. And again, you change your brain and you change your life.
That's right.
And so, again, it's important for us to remind you folks, if you're listening to us, you're hearing about something that is very, very important, because there's a grant that's been given to Learning RX by the Gibson Institute of Cognitive Research out in Colorado Springs. And anyone who wants a cognitive fitness test can call or go by 8856 Uri Drive, or call them at 797-8523. This is a $97 test.
It is.
And it's available to all of us through this grant for $2.
Correct.
And that includes the follow-up and the recommendations of what can be done.
Of making it part of your lifestyle.
Now, you also mentioned something else. There's a lot of people out there also, Denisa, that may be battling, maybe they're in chemotherapy. Maybe they're combating cancer in their life. Sure. Maybe diabetes, maybe some other chronic illness. And some people may say, well, what you guys are talking about today, that really doesn't fit me. And yet, It really does, doesn't it?
It really does. I can tell from personal experience. You know, my mother went through breast cancer, and so cognitive training was part of her regimen.
Wow.
Of course,
what difference did that make?
Well, I can tell you in seeing the others that were around her, my mother was able to retain all of her memory. So she had no memory loss during that time period, which a lot of people went through.
Yeah.
When you go through medications, when you have a lot on board, it does. I mean, you know,
it impacts,
when you're feeling bad, your cognitive function is muted. And so those types of things, all of those things impact us. Right. Everything we do, you know, impacts us. And so if you can, you know, work through that where your cognitive function is not suffering, then you can build that back up. And that's so important.
Absolutely. Again, getting your brain healthier, literally the brain is in control of everything.
Well,
so
if you can keep that, then you can obviously keep some of your other issues that naturally come with those. I mean, when you're sick, you naturally get down and discouraged, but if your function is up, then you have less likelihood of developing some of those side effects.
Yeah, I know that we've made psychosomatic kind of a dirty word, and yet it shouldn't be.
No.
I'd like to change that if I could, because everything is psychosomatic. You and I are both combating colds right now. And so psycho just means of the mind, soma means of the body. So when we catch a cold, it's psychosomatic. It doesn't mean that the cold is all in our head, even though maybe a lot of times it is literally in our head. But it's not mentally in our head.
Right.
But the better we feel, the better our brain is tuned up, the more tuned up then is our immune system. And our immune system is really part of what the brain manages, part of what the mind, the mystery, and the miracle that we are as the human being.
Just making your lifestyle about cognitive fitness and making that a priority can do so much for even making your physical fitness easier for you to manage.
Most definitely.
You know, so if you're understanding where you are, you know, in that process, it can make that easier.
Most definitely. Now, one of the things that I know must be just a joy for you is to take someone, young or old, at one level and then watch the development through the brain training process.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
The journeys are incredible, and seeing the success. I mean, I can tell you story after story, probably should, story after story from
we probably have time for a story or so.
That's great. I have little bitties who I can think when they come in that they do not even understand that letters have sounds, and then they begin to read, and the delight that you get, but that delight doesn't change. I can think of a young man right now in his 30s, and his passion was to come in and learn to read so he could read to his 3-year-old.
Oh, wow.
That was his motivation. He wanted to read to his daughter, and he couldn't read to his daughter. And so he came in to learn to read, and the journey of that was incredible. When he learned to read, and then he could read to his child. Think of that gift that lasts a lifetime.
And think of that gift that lasts a lifetime, and also think of that gift that ripples out into other lives.
Sure.
So, you know, if that young man then had the confidence to be able to read to his daughter, that might have changed that life.
Right.
And how many other lives from there
absolutely.
Are to be
And then he
impacted.
was able to go on and pass a test that moved him up in that he had never been able to pass because he couldn't read.
Wow.
So then that moved him up in his job, you know, and so those types of things are really incredible. And then the stories of people who come in with beginning dementia stages, you know, just that to me is, you know, my body, I understand it's going to fail, but please don't take my brain.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the things that's just really hard for us is seeing that both from a traumatic brain injury aspect.
Right.
It's so hard going through that cycle.
And that's one of the things, again, we're talking about cognitive fitness, and I keep saying the word neuroplasticity. Of course, I'm from Bossier City. I'm just proud I can say neuroplasticity. But you know, the fact is that that's a major thing that we know now that we didn't know couple of decades ago.
And simply put, neuroplasticity just means that the brain can relearn. And so these
and
new
can
cells,
find pathways,
find
ways around. So if I'm blocked up in one area,
right,
if I challenge the brain, if I push the brain, if then the brain can figure out all kinds of ways that it can move around
and rewire. And that's the incredible piece of it, is doing that. So you cannot limit yourself. You can say, well, I struggle with math my whole life, so I hate math. I don't want to do anything with math. In fact, I'll tell you the cute story. I had a young man struggle with math all the way through. He was in high school, and he actually went through Learning RX for a math intervention, and now he's a math major, about to graduate college as a math major. Now, is that funny?
It's got to make you so proud.
That's hysterical, but
Absolutely.
It's fun, that he totally went from being, anti-math to being full-fledged. Wow. This is what I want to do for a living.
Your cognitive fitness can start right now, folks. Pick up the phone and call 797-8523. There's no better time to call Learning RX than right now, because there's been a grant given by the Gibson Institute of Cognitive Research from Colorado Springs to Learning RX. What would be a $100 to $200 value is yours for $2. All you got to do is call. You can be set up to take it in the privacy of your own home. And then if you want to come in and learn about the recommendations, you can do that. But you'll get valuable, important information from this. Denisa, thank you so much for the work that you guys do. Folks, if you want to learn more about Learning RX, 797-8523 is the number to call. You can go online, Learning RX of Shreveport Bossier. You can Google them and get right to them. And I'm telling you, we are very, very lucky. They're like a diamond here in our community. So Denisa, thank you for bringing Learning RX to Shreveport Bossier, and thank you for coming. You're always a great life strategist here on Strategies for Living.
Appreciate it.
And folks, thank you for tuning into Strategies for Living. Don't forget, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. That's the radio version of Strategies for Living. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. each weekday evening, Monday through Friday, and also on Sunday mornings between 9 and 10. You can also catch us Monday through Friday on Facebook Live /Strategies for Living. For Denisa Walker, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan, and we'll see you next time.